Hi Chris, welcome to our Revival Magazine interview. Would you mind just introducing yourself for the people watching?
Sure, I'm Chris Dupre, and it's good to be here with you.
Great. So first of all, I just want to start off by asking you a few kind of random questions to get to know you.
Go for it.
I hear you like sports. What
I
do you
do.
most like to watch?
I watch American football. I love football. I'm saying American football because I just said football. Where you're from, obviously, with your accent would mean that it's probably soccer, or that's what you call football. And I played that for years, and I love to watch that. And believe it or not, golf. Golf's as slow as it is. I love to watch golf and all the internal mind drama that goes along with it. So.
Great. And you play a bit of golf as well?
I play golf, yeah. And a bit. That's a good way to put it. No, I used to have about a 10 or 12 handicap. It's probably up a little bit more, but I can at least keep up. Yeah,
Brilliant.
I like it.
It's a lot of fun. So first of all, I just want to ask you about the love of God and the Father heart of God, because you're quite renowned for speaking about that. Can you tell me a bit about how this became an important theme in your life?
Wow. I remember Bill Johnson said something about where I have a scar. I'm not ashamed of my scars, because it's actually the toughest part of my skin. And I think looking back, the potential for scarring is a son from the hand of a father that was a troubled man for a lot of years, and I didn't understand the origin of his trouble. He was shot down out of a B-17 in World War II, and broke his leg in 9 places, captured, taken by the Germans, and spent the rest of the war there, and kind of a very abusive situation. So when you're born into a family, into a home, that person's just your father. You don't know where they're from. You don't know why they're the way they are. And so that's for me where the cutting of my heart to create that scar, and the pain early as a boy and as a son. Growing up, I think God kind of came along and said, okay, what could be a weakness is going to be your greatest strength. And understanding through God's affection to me in a real face-to-face way, and being able to give my own dad a gift to forgive him for anything and all that happened, that created a bridge to his heart. And realizing that his son loved him and forgave him, he crossed the bridge back to me, and we were united in a way that I know few sons and fathers were. And that for me awakened in a greater way the understanding of the heart of a father, and the power that forgiveness and the power that a father's love can have. Because I understood it, I received it, and I saw what it did for me, and I know what it does for others.
Can you tell me a bit more about the process of forgiveness that you went through?
Well, I remember getting saved at 19 and kind of the Lord dealing with me, what are you going to do about your dad? And my initial response was, oh, I'm a Christian now, so I have to forgive him. So I said this little prayer, and I really thought that was it. And then anytime someone would bring his name up, I felt like sour milk in my stomach. And anytime that I would have to see him, I always dreaded the moment of having to see him. I had been separated from him in terms of living with him. My mother and I and my older brother and sister, when I was 8, we moved out. So now it's 11 years later. We've been in contact here and then, but I just remember realizing that saying it, that's why Jesus said, when the disciples said, how often should we forgive 7 times? He said, no, 7 times 70. What he was doing was giving us permission to go as often, and to release our heart and our soul and the pain of that, and in forgiveness and faith, and that sooner or later it's going to break. And don't think that you're coming too many times. Don't feel like you just have to do it once and now you got to stand. And I think God understands our frailty, and He knows that we need that. And I kept coming back, and then over time He put something into that really released a forgiveness towards my father. It was a process, but it was also a slow journey too. There's pain involved sometimes in the journey, but it's worth it at the end.
So what to you is the biggest key kind of to really understanding and grasping God's love?
Gosh, I think the thing that we that we do right away is we get into the channel that, okay, I now know the Lord, I have to love God. And so we flip it around too fast. Someone tells us how much he loves us. Someone tells us how much he's done for us, that he left eternity, he left glory, he came, and that Jesus laid down his life for us. And they present a message of this gift of love God has for you. And then you receive it, and then it gets on to, okay, now let's do something in this new kingdom and love God. And we're not told that the process that got us there of knowing his love is the process that we're supposed to use to live in this new kingdom. It doesn't stop. It's not just an open door. I am the door. He's not just the door to eternity and salvation. He's the door to everything we need. So I need God to love God. And then therefore that takes me to that beautiful scripture in 1 John where it says we love because we're first loved. And so that for me has been, that's the key to it all right there, is to be able to love, I need to know I'm loved. So therefore my journey in God is not always, okay, I'm going to love. That's going to be the fruit of knowing I'm loved. Therefore, I think sometimes the way we position ourselves determines the kind of fruit we're going to have and what we're going to end up with. So all that to say is that God's love, if we don't pursue it, often we'll end up with little of it. But when we really pursue it, we make him our goal. We seek him, we'll find him. So.
Great. And can you tell me a little bit about your latest book, The Wild Love of God? How did that come about?
It came about through 50-some years of living it. It's actually what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I was 19, 20, 21 years old, struggling with my dad, and suddenly I literally was standing in my home eating a bologna sandwich and closed my eyes, listening to some worship music, and I found myself outside somewhere else. And people say, was it a dream? Was it a vision? All I know is I was home and then I wasn't, and I was elsewhere. And the Lord came to me without going through a long story. He came to me and he came face to face with me. And I felt shame at seeing the beautiful perfectness of him. At the same time, there was an exhilaration in my soul because when he looked at me like no one ever did. And there was a gaze on his face toward me that I had never seen one person ever give to another. And that the term, what became the book, The Wild Love of God, I looked into his eyes and I saw his eyes blazing. They were on fire with love for me, and the biggest smile I'd ever seen. And I love people that just when they smile, they light up the room. Well, he lit up the countryside. It was amazing, and it was all coming my way. And then I heard these words that said, "This is my wild love for you," and I was kind of taken aback. But what does it mean, wild love? Wild is, uncontrollable. And he said, "Yes, no man controls how I love you. You need to know that." And it pressed deep into my heart. And he was looking at me and holding me and telling me how much I needed to know this. I need to know this. For my life, I need to know this. And he put my head and put it on his chest and just began to rock me. And I could hear his heartbeat. I could feel it. And this ball of fire kind of shot up, hit me, and I found myself back in my apartment. I wept and wept and wept. And at the end of that process, I cried so much, literally, it soaked my pillow and went into my bed because I'd fallen onto my bed and began to weep. And I woke up, something was different, and I was able to, even with my own father, have a greater love and a greater desire for love and intimacy there than I'd ever had. The book is the result of the journey and how my father and I reconciled, and what I went through as a child, and his journey and in his war experience, and my feeble attempt at trying to do it one way, and then finally God showing up and showing me how best to build a bridge to his heart, and the importance of forgiveness. I call it the gift of forgiveness, and the power that it has. So it's a very easy, fun read because it's really just a story. I'm not trying to teach someone, though I think there are things that are taught through it. I just want to inspire people so that the prayer out of Ephesians, that the knowledge and the wisdom, there'd be a revelation of the knowledge of what he is like. And at the end of that book, they would know that this one is madly in love with me. He's blazing with affection for me, and he's not looking to squash me at my first moment of walking when I stumble and fall. It's just absolutely the opposite. He's ready, and he can't wait to pick me up and hold me and tell me he loves me.
That's really incredible. I'm definitely looking forward to reading that.
Well, good.
And I hear you're in the process of writing more. Can you tell me a bit about other things you might be writing at the moment?
I just finished a book with James Gall. He and I are doing a book with a few others, and it's he and I are each writing 3 chapters, and then 4 other people are writing one. It's a book on worship. It's going to be called Pure Worship, or The Art of Pure Worship, or something that will land on, but it will have pure worship in its title. And that'll be by Destiny Image. I'm looking forward to that. I've been a worship leader for years, and I love worship and being able to be a part of that. I have one that I've started. It's just on the importance of telling each other why we love each other, and the importance that communicating affection has between human beings. And then I've got some that I've written and am working on in the process of publishing along. There are a few children's books with different fun characters, and some are geared at one age and an older age. The Lord said to me a while back that he said, I asked him, so what's left? I've come now, I'm 50 plus, now what's left? And he says, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to use everything I know and any gift I have in whatever possible way to communicate how you feel about people. He said, okay, good. And so since then, I wrote 2 movie scripts that people are looking at. I've gotten some children's books. Got this one going, Wild Love of God, Pure Worship. Everything is geared towards really one thing, which is I want to communicate and so that people would really understand, because I think the church has a good enough understanding to keep going a bit. But I don't it says Paul said to the Ephesians, we need to be rooted and grounded in love. And I've talked about having a tree in my house, a beautiful willow tree in the front. In a big storm, this monstrous tree went down because the roots went down just a little bit, but then they went out. And how important it is that our rooting and grounding is not in ministry, it's not in this, it's not in that. That's all above the surface. But the importance of the roots is that they go down deep, they hold everything. The deeper you go down, the higher you can build up above the surface. And all I know is that I leave the building, I will build my church. I leave the building to him. My role is what's below the surface, and to go deeper and to be grounded and rooted in love.
That's great. So what kind of advice would you give to people with a burning message on their heart? How can they start the process of getting their message out there, or putting pen to paper?
Well, that's a good question. I would say probably start doing it in whatever form and capacity you have. I think some people have an expectation of, well, I want to do this, so I will wait for this opportunity to arise. Well, there could be 7 steps in between there that each one helps to create what you think you want. But if you get what you want now, it'll be this fledgling little thing with little power or authority attached to it, or it won't be in the way that you really wanted to communicate it. So go through the process, live life, gather it, and use every opportunity to share your message and hone what is in your heart. I'm not saying go out and memorize a bunch of things that you can get down. That's not what I'm talking about. I know kind of who I am, and I know how I communicate, and I know things that are on my heart. And one of the things you need to do, and that's the big thing of knowing who you are and what limitation you never have in God, and yet at the same time, I'm not somebody else. So I don't have to run after how they do something. I don't have to run after this. I can learn from people, but I'm the only vessel I have, and so therefore I have to know what this vessel is like and know how God uses it. And so don't wait for the crowd of 10,000, wait for the 3 around a table and being able to share. One of the things that I love to do in life is I very rarely travel through a drive-through of any kind. I like to go in, I want to talk to them, and if I'm in a town, that I live in a town, then the little places I drive through, the bank, this place, that place, after a while I know the people and I begin to communicate. So I walk in, you know, it's opposed to being out on the 4th lane getting a little tube, thank you, and that's all. Over time, I walk in and it's, hi Chris, hi Rose, how you doing? And now I can communicate to her because I've known her. And so I think it's just being who you are, being real wherever you're at, and being able to learn how to communicate what God's put on your heart through who you are and the uniqueness of who you are.
That's really amazing. So, Chris, what inspires you most at the moment?
What inspires me? What a great question. I'm inspired by watching people honor others. I like watching someone love on someone else. My grandchildren inspire me. I walk in, I've got 4 grandkids, and one is too young, she's just barely 4 months old. But the others, when they see their grandfather, I'm Papa, and they come in and they scream my name and run towards me. And when that's as innocent as it gets, and as pure, that's as pure as love can get. They just love you and want to run to you. I'm inspired by a great movie. I am inspired by a story in which there's pain and struggle in the middle of it, but there's the pursuit of goodness and the pursuit of rightness. I'm inspired by a beautiful melody that makes me want to cry. I was recently on a trip, and I was listening to some music alone at night, and I had my hands in the air and I was crying. It was just this beautiful piece of music and strings. There's no singing, but the sound that they made together, it just brought tears to my ears. So all that to say is I think it all represents the beautiful nature that God has, whether it's in the smile of a child, or a chord being played that strikes your heart, or something that's pulled out in the story of a movie, and it just unveils his affection and his beauty, and anything that does that inspires me.
Wow, that's incredible. I feel inspired now.
Well, good, good.
So my last question for you today, your relationship with Catch the Fire has grown over the last 3 years.
Yes.
What's impacted you most in that time?
Wow. I'd been connected. I had met John and Carol back in the 90s, mid-90s. They used to come to Kansas City where I lived and did ministry there. So we met there, but coming here a few years back, I was reunited with them, with their hearts, with their vision, ministry, and was kind of pulled in to become more and a part of it. And so I thought it was going to be mainly not a business deal, but a ministry. We signed this little thing, and we're going to do this for a year, and I'm going to come up, and my role was the worship pastor. And what I found was that, like anywhere else, you find him in people. And that's what I did here. I just kept finding him in people, finding his mercy in someone here, his sweetness in someone there. And so it's one of those things now that it's family. This is another home that I have, and I love that. I kind of left the cold weather. I'm from upstate New York, on the other side of Lake Ontario, in Rochester. That's where I grew up. Now I live down in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's, I can golf every month if I want to. But this has got me. It's got my heart. I am forever connected to this place, and I'm forever grateful for and honored to be attached to it and connected with it.
That's amazing. Well, we're honoured to have you, and thanks so much for answering my questions today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.